Some of the allegations made against you by Nicole, end of season 8.
She was like, I really didn't think it made the show. And I was like, oh, it made the show. Sure enough, we got the screeners a week later and I was mortified. There is zero truth to this. I can't even believe that this was allowed.
Welcome to another episode of Richer Lives, aka the show that teaches you how to use money to live your best life. I'm Vivian Tu, and Selling Sunset watchers, get ready to get hyped because we have one of my fave cast members from the show today, Emma Hernan. Welcome, Emma.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
For anyone who might not know all about Emma's illustrious career, she is a celebrity real estate agent and core cast member on Selling Sunset, the owner of Emma Lee & Co., and an angel investor in multiple startups. Emma, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for us to chat today. I am a Selling Sunset stan. I want to kind of roll back the tape really quick. Most 16-year-olds aren't really thinking about investing, but you were already setting up a nest egg, thinking about business. Like, what inspired you to start so early?
It's always been in my blood. Like, I feel like from a very young age, for me, being financially stable was stability to me. My father was a firefighter. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I was super close with my grandparents. And I just knew that I wanted to be super, super successful because they were so amazing to me. And so for me, being successful meant that I would give back to them. For the first summer that I worked, I was nannying and I was also working in an ice cream shop. And I remember saving all my money. I put it in my sock drawer. Weird place to put it, but I hid it in the socks in the sock drawer. And then when Christmas time came, I separated it into piles for my mom, my dad, my nana, my papa, and then my brother. My brother got the smallest because he wasn't very nice to me. But it was like the best thing because it was the first time that I had money.
Yeah.
And spoiling them on Christmas made my Christmas.
I can definitely tell gift giving is one of your love languages.
It is. I'm a giver. Like, it makes me so happy.
So you were obviously a very good saver. You were good at, squirreling that money away. When did you realize it was important not only just to save, but also to invest?
So I was nannying for this family and the husband went to Harvard. They were in the stock market and I obviously saw the wealth that they had accumulated. So when I would put the kids down to sleep, instead of watching TV like a typical teenager, I remember looking at the computer and seeing his Christmas bonus was more zeros than I had ever seen in my whole entire life. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
And that was just the Christmas bonus. And I was like, how do I make this happen? I sat down with him and his wife and I said, instead of, getting paid, I want to save all of the money, all of the hours. And then at the end of the summer, I want to invest everything. And so I started investing. The first investment I remember was healthcare, which is a great investment to get into.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got into it. And then I saw, obviously, the more you save and the more you invest, that's the way to do it.
You were a part of a fishing family.
Yes.
And at 16, you actually invested in your family's seafood business.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if every 16-year-old girl is dreaming of being a seafood company owner, but what made you want to get into that and how was being a part of that business so young?
So when my grandfather passed away, he left the company to my mom and her sisters. And as with any company, when you take it over, there's a lot of expenses. There's rent, there's machinery, and they were trying to scale to another level. My grandfather was scooping crab cakes out of his kitchen and selling them to the local fish market. They needed to expand and they needed to pay for employees and payroll and all of these things. My mom had maxed out their home equity and taking everything out to put into the company. So at that point, that's why I saved. I wanted to be able to give back to my family at a young age, and that's why saving was so important. So when it came time for, me to step up, it was a no-brainer. There wasn't any hesitation. It was like, you need money to get the company going. You need money for payroll, whatever machine. I was like, of course. Now, the company is in stores across the U.S., a multi-million-dollar company. And I love that I was part of that and part of that journey. And it also kept my grandfather's legacy going as well.
You are so involved in your family's seafood company. What do you hope to be creating for those future generations?
Creating a company and growing it to a certain level and then being able to have that generational wealth is stability. It all goes back to stability. So my children, my children's children, they don't have to struggle. And I want them to work because I do think that that's important too. You have to have that drive in you. I do think that having a little starting point and having that makes a really big difference. I have a niece and a nephew now. And, one of my brother's lines that he came out with, it's actually named after them. So he has his own line. online Ally Mags. And I want that to motivate them that, oh my God, we need to work just as hard as mom and dad did and just as hard as auntie did, because they created this line in our name, and creating that generational wealth is going to make such a big difference for our entire family. And I really want to create a legacy.
When people talk about creating wealth, I think people immediately jump to the flashy sports car or the bag, or even sometimes like a really big house.
Yeah.
But you have said the word stability so many times. And I really do think that is a very rich thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, it's what actually matters.
It is. It's what actually matters. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. It doesn't matter how big your house is, because if you don't have the money to pay your mortgage, well, then that house means nothing. That car means nothing. And at the end of the day, I want to have a big nest egg in my savings so that anyone that comes to me, anyone in my family that needs something, I'm there for them. And again, that nest egg is eventually going to trickle down to my kids and my kids' kids. And that's what's important to me.
Taking care of them even when you're no longer around.
Exactly.
How has your money management changed these days versus when you were younger in your teens and 20s?
I've always been really, really good at saving and really good at investing and things like that. But now, when it comes to those type of things, I like to take a little bit riskier of investments because, I've done the work. So I'm at a point where I have my savings. I've invested really, really good in certain areas. So like if I can take a risk and invest in something like a startup that's a little bit more risky,
you have that cushion to be able to take that leap.
Exactly. And I always say when you're just getting into investing, go the safe route because you don't want to lose it all. You know what I mean? Especially someone dips their feet in the water and then they drown. That's not good. They're not going to want to do it again. So I always say when you're first investing, just dip your feet in and do something that's a little bit more on the safe side. And then once you see that savings going up and up, you're more apt to continue to do it.
So funny. I feel like you are on the opposite side of the spectrum versus so many other people.
Yeah.
You are such a good saver. You're investing. How do you balance that versus, you're spending? Like, don't you want to buy stuff? Don't you want to have fun?
Yeah. So for me, I know it sounds so crazy, but a lot of my girlfriends, they're like, ooh, I got a big check. Let me go shopping. Let me go buy a new Chanel bag. Let me do this. For me, when I get a big check, I'm like, what investment can I put this in? What stock, what startup? Like for me, that's my accessory is, being able to look at my checking account, look at my savings account, or look at an investment growing. So there are times where I'm tempted because of course I'm a girl. I love fashion, but as much as I love fashion, we can whip something together. It doesn't have to be from the top designer. It could be from Forever 21. And, if I get to spoil myself here and there with a nice bag, that's fine. But for me, oh my God, investing in a company or the stock market or something like that, that's what excites me.
Emma, based on your reality TV career, I feel like some people might have tried to pigeonhole you into beauty or fashion because you are so lovely. But what made you want to invest in boring businesses instead?
Because boring businesses is what makes you the real money. So I'm all about that paycheck. I'm all about that savings. My first investment was in the healthcare space.
Yeah.
So I've always known that going into that space is going to be, the space that's going to create wealth. And ultimately, what I want to do for me and my future family is create generational wealth.
Yeah.
And that's why investing in, the boring space, that's where the money's at. So I remember, healthcare being one of my first investments and, even still investing in tech and things like that. That's where the future is going. So yeah, boring investments aren't so boring when the checks look right.
Were you ever scared? Those weren't spaces that you had a lot of personal expertise in.
I've always been a risk taker, for sure. I've always been sometimes my parents are like, what? You're putting that much money in? And it's I understand it's a gamble, but there's also, a really high chance to get an amazing ROI. You know what I mean? And those can be scary for sure. But at the same time, I like to take risks. And I do think that, when you invest in something that is positive for our future, whether it's healthcare and something that could change the healthcare industry or tech, something that can change someone's life in a positive way, I like to make those type of investments.
Let's hit pause for a second to learn about another way SoFi helps their members get their money right. Trying to find the right insurance is kind of like hitting up one of those fancy food halls. You think you know what you want, but there are so many options. Do you go for some gourmet pizza, tacos, maybe a poke bowl? That's where SoFi Protect comes in. Think of it like your personal insurance food hall, except here, they can help you put together a plate that can protect you. No overpaying for extras you don't need, and no missing out on the coverage you do. With SoFi, you get one place to shop, compare, and manage all your coverage from auto to home and even life. So you apply for exactly what you need at a price you love. Whether you need a light snack of coverage or a 3-course meal, SoFi makes it easy to help protect what matters most to you. Learn more at SoFi.com/protect. Reality TV, Selling Sunset. Were you ever worried that being on reality TV would negatively impact your other income sources, your other businesses?
It was more so about, oh my God, I'm putting my personal life out there for the world to see and judge. And that's not always fun. And I've always been really private in my relationships, and that was taken away from me. First season, thrown to the wolves, that was taken away. So like, I knew that that was going to be something, and I knew that the world, you know what I mean? They will rip you apart, you know, and that's not always fun.
People are not nice.
Oh my goodness. I will tell you a story only because it's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time. I remember my first season when it came out, somebody wrote, "Does anyone else think Emma from Selling Sunset looks like a pigeon?" And they had my head next to a pigeon's head. And I was like, I see it. I saw it. I'm not going to lie.
No.
And then I was like, people just rip you apart. And I remember for a second, I got a little pit in my stomach. And then I was like, okay, Emma, rewind. This is 5% of what you're looking at right now. And then I went to my DMs, and I had thousands and thousands of messages from women telling me that I inspired them to go out there, and whether it was changing a career path or just inspire them to, you know, get out of bed and do something different. That's why I did it. And that's why, as risky as it was and, you know, putting my life out there, it was all worth it.
Talk to me about the other pros. Did you see reality TV help like show an uptick in your actual businesses too?
100%. People didn't know me before the show. Of course, they're looking at my Instagram. They're seeing these photos online. I'm not doing a lot of talking, so they're just photos. And they're judging me 100% based on my appearance. And then when I joined the show, people are like, oh my God, she's super sweet. She's a hard worker. She created everything on her own. She's not dating someone that has money. Her parents didn't give her money. She worked hard to get there. So that was one of the biggest pros and bonuses that came with the show, is people kind of got to know me as a person. And I am so friendly, and I am like, I'm a girl's girl through and through, and I'm always helping people. And I feel like if you just looked at a photo online, you wouldn't really understand that. So I loved that about the show, that I was kind of able to tell my story and where I came from. And you get to see my real life friendships. I mean, Chelsea and Chriselle are my genuine best friends. Like, this isn't just for a TV show. They're going to be my best friends for life.
We love Chriselle here. You guys can check out her episode at youtube.com/SoFi. She has also been on Richer Lives.
Oh, I love her.
You mentioned being a girl's girl, and especially knowing that you identify as a girl's girl. Some of the allegations made against you by Nicole, end of season 8, did those negative allegations ever impact your business in a bad way?
What was done to me was so unfair. I was completely blindsided. Not only by Nicole, we're not friends, so that's one thing. I still don't think you should ever do that to another woman. But, you know, by the show a bit too, for not giving me a voice to, okay, it could have been, all I had to do was be told in 30 seconds, it would have been squashed.
Right.
But I wasn't given that chance because it's a little bit juicier to leave it as a cliffhanger. Who is Emma with? What is it? And I was mortified what they did to me. Mortified. And I was actually just about to launch my new company, Coast to Coast. And I put that on pause. I paused the launch of my company because of what Nicole did to me. I'm super happy that I did that. But at the time,
very smart business move.
Yeah, it was. It was a smart business move. And I also wasn't in the mindset of going out there and being like the CEO, this go-getter, after what I was just being accused of. It was important for me to clear my name and let this be known. There is zero truth to this. I can't even believe that this was allowed. I will never forget that. I'll never forget the pain. I'll never forget the hurt. I'll never forget that pit in my stomach feeling until it was cleared up.
Okay, so as someone who is potentially interested in maybe having a career in reality TV in the future, future. But like,
You would be amazing, by the way.
thank you.
You would be amazing.
But how do we get paid?
Okay, very good question. So it's different for, Bravo is different than Netflix. But for our show, we get paid per episode.
Okay.
So if you make the episode, you get paid. If they cut you out of the episode, you don't get paid. And guess what? You have to pay for glam, styling, and everything yourself. So a lot of people think that we get, hair and makeup budget, styling budget, but no, that is all on us. So however we come up and we show up to set, however we look, that budget is on us. So you are investing in yourself. And honestly, when I first joined the show, I was in the negative. And then
Really?
Oh yeah. From what I was spending, I was in the negative when I first joined the show because it was so expensive to get glam, to get these outfits, to do all of these things. I was in the negative, and then I broke even my next season. And then now, because obviously, your pay goes up as you've been a cast member for quite some time. And I'm a little bit smarter with, glam and stuff like that and different outfit choices. At the end of the day, it's more important for me to have money in the bank and a savings and an investment than, an outfit. So love our outfits and Selling Sunset, but my bank account comes first.
When you are thinking about kind of like how you invest in yourself for these appearances, like what are the considerations? Is it more important to you to be spending on that versus like, putting a down payment down on something else?
Yeah. So I think that there's pros and cons when it comes to when you're investing in yourself and you're going onto a reality show. And let's be honest, fashion is big on Selling Sunset.
You gotta look nice.
You have to look nice, and you're creating a brand. So, I'm smart enough to realize I am putting my personal life out there. I need to make this worth it. So I am going to invest in myself. I am going to go above and beyond. I am going to spend a lot on glam. I am going to spend a lot on these outfits. And I'm probably going to be in the negative for, a season or two. But that's okay, because what I'm creating is, again, generational wealth. So I'm creating a brand. I'm not just coming onto this show and for no reason. If I'm going to do it, if I'm going to put my life out there, it has to be worth it. I realized that, first season, and I launched my food company that I talked about on the show. These empanadas became a whole thing because, I was like, you know what? I'm creating a brand. I am showing people that I am a brand myself. And so I had to invest in my outfits, my glam, and everything like that came with it.
You have an empanada company, but you started also offering co-packing services.
Yes. So this is what people don't know about me. Everyone assumes that I just have this empanada company, which is amazing. I love my empanadas. But what I did first was I bought the manufacturing facility. Then I started my company. So now anyone that comes to us, we co-pack for numerous brands that are in stores across the US. So we have that stream of revenue, which is huge. I have my empanada company, and then we have my family's company in there as well. So there's so many different streams of income. And I think that that's what people don't realize is that it's not just an empanada company. I co-pack for a million other brands. And
wait, Emma, I'm a little confused. Can you explain to me what the word co-packing means?
Yes. So when you're starting a company, you have to find a co-packer to make your items. So it's putting the food items together. It's putting all the ingredients together. It's packaging it up. It's absolutely everything. You need to find a co-packer that's going to be able to mass produce it, and you need someone to do it the exact same way. And when you mass produce, it can change the flavor profile. So there's a lot of R&D when it comes to finding a co-packer that works, not going to charge you an arm and a leg. So a lot of the startups that fail, it's because it's really difficult to find a good co-packer. And what I did is I became my own co-packer because I started my manufacturing facility before I even started my own company. So I kind of skipped a step, and I feel like that has been definitely a really big advantage for me.
A lot of people get on the VC treadmill and they start borrowing money. But you've mentioned that you are self-funded.
Yes.
That's a lot of risk to wear. What made you decide to essentially sponsor your own businesses versus going and applying for a loan or getting money from a venture capital fund?
Okay, I love this question. This might be my favorite so far. I was judged a lot based on my appearance for a lot of my life. And I knew that if I started my company and I took other people's money, people were going to think that, I didn't do this on my own. So for me, it was just like a female empowerment moment. Like, I'm going to bootstrap this entire company myself. I'm going to fund it. I've bought my own manufacturing facility. company. I'm now funding everything else that goes into it, the packaging, the startup fees, everything. It drove me even more because I'm like, I need this company to succeed. I have put so much money into it. I've put my heart and my soul into it. I think when you have a little skin in the game or a lot of skin in the game, it's going to make you work a lot harder. And, there were 16-hour days where, I wasn't getting any sleep because I wanted everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
And my guy friends that were CEOs and crazy successful, wait, can I invest in your company? And I was like, no, I'm good. And it was the best feeling because I turned down so many investments and everyone was shocked because most people don't turn down investments these days.
Yeah, who's turning down money?
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with taking capital on, but for me, it was one of those things that I really wanted to launch my first company and own it 100%, do it all on my own. And I'm super proud of myself. We as women need to be able to say that more. I am proud of myself. And we need to be proud of ourselves. We need to look in the mirror with confidence and be like, great job. You know what I mean? Pat yourself on the back. And I'm really proud of myself with what I was able to do.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I hope a young woman listening to this feels the same and realizes that they can do it themselves too.
Exactly.
While we're on the topic of entrepreneurs, let's take a quick break to learn how SoFi is making it easier for small business owners to stay on top of their finances. We'll be right back with more from Emma. Listen up, business owners. It's time to talk about how things are fitting. No, not your clothes, your finances. While owning your own small business can be a dream, finding financing that fits your needs is like trying to find the perfect accessory for your outfit. Some loans are just too much. More money than you need, and suddenly you're paying for a loan that's riding off into the sunset with your cash flow. Others are way too small, like they don't cover anything. It wouldn't even cover your next inventory order. And others come with way too many strings attached. Fees, requirements, restrictions. It's just not it. That's why I love SoFi's marketplace. It helps you shop and compare financing options that may actually work for your business. So go to SoFi.com/SMB and shop for financing that fits. Selling Sunset, you are an actual real estate agent who sells houses. You have Emily & Co. I mean, you are hands in all these different honey pots, super diversified, which is amazing.
Yep.
Let's break it down into a pie chart. What percentage of your income comes from where?
Probably 40% my food company. So the food industry, I would say 40%, just because it's also passive income. That's important for young women out there to learn about getting passive income and doing things and investing in things where, okay, you have passive income here. So that actually opens up my time where I can go sell houses. I can go film for a show because I'm also getting this paycheck as well.
Yeah.
So I would say 40% in the food industry. I would say 20% in real estate. Another 20%, I would say, when it comes to filming the show and doing more TV type appearance stuff. And then, that last 20% is going to be my other investments, whether it's startups and things like that, because you still have to put time into that. You have to go meet with the owners. You have to go check out, the product that you're investing in. So that 20% is definitely for that. So that's kind of my little pie chart right now. That's my current pie chart.
Yeah. You hit a buzzword, passive income.
Yes.
How much money did you feel like you needed to have in the bank before you started feeling like you could get that passive income?
For me, I had $1 million in the bank. And that was kind of my number that I wanted to hit. I wanted to be able to sit down with my grandmother and tell her, because no one had been a millionaire in the family yet on both sides. She was my person. And I remember I wanted to sit down and tell her. And I was like, Nana, guess what? And she was like, what? And I was like, I have $1 million. And she could not believe it. She could not believe it. But I had to hit that number. That number is not going to be everyone's number. But for me, it was so important for me to become a millionaire. As a little girl, that was a big, big dream of mine. So before I started going out and making these riskier investments, I wanted to be able to say, okay, I'm a millionaire. Now I can go take a little bit more risk because I have that nest egg.
I definitely felt the same way. It's almost like a mindset thing. When you have that number that nobody in your family has ever seen before, it gives you a security blanket.
Yeah. I even have butterflies right now talking about it because I remember the first time and I would watch my bank account like crazy and I would just like scroll and like I just wanted to see that number. And
you were refreshing it like it was Instagram.
I was refreshing it like it was an Instagram feed and I just wanted that new photo to come up. And I remember seeing that number in my bank and I was like, wow, I did it. All of the hard work I did it. And I was so proud to tell my family. And I never really talked about it with my friends at that point.
Yeah.
Now I actually think it's really important to talk about money, especially with females. I feel like we don't talk about it enough. Oh my God, you should see the conversations that I have with my girlfriends now. I'm like, oh, no. You need to ask for a raise. You should be charging this for this. Because, the men are out there doing it, but they're just a little bit more vocal.
Talk to me a little bit about that. How did you get comfortable talking to your girlfriends about money?
I'll never forget my girlfriend. We were driving down Sunset Boulevard and she asked me how I got my money. And I guess I never really talked about it. I was super private about it because I never wanted to come off braggadocious or anything like that. A light bulb went off in that moment. One of my purposes on life is to teach women out there how to invest and how to save. It's not braggadocious. It's important to talk about. It's important to teach other women.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
You've mentioned earlier that you've been underestimated for how you've looked. Has there ever been a time that you were able to flip somebody's perspective of you?
Oh yeah, I can think of a few. I was investing in a tech company. And I was actually meeting with scientists. It was all men that were investing, and I was the only female in there. And I remember one of the investors, one of the other men in there, they were like, oh, whose wife or girlfriend are you? And I was like, oh no, I'm investing. And he was like taken back. And then when it was my turn to talk, let me just tell you, I knew more about the potential of this investment than he did. His eyes just getting bigger and bigger with every word that I said. All of these, business investing terms that I don't even think he knew at the time. And I'm like, I'm stroking a check that's bigger than yours. And I remember him being like, just taking a step back. And for me, it was like a power play. Like, okay, don't judge me based off the way that I look. I'm here just like you are, stroking a check just the same as you are, or maybe even bigger. So you can sit back, sir.
The advice for a lot of women to succeed or get ahead is to act more like a man. What advice would you give to people to say you don't have to do that?
I actually think quite the opposite. I think being yourself and being as genuine as you can possibly be is going to get you a lot further. I have heard my mom sometimes pick up a phone if she's picking up from a buyer, and all of a sudden it's like my mom who's like, hi, Emma, blah, 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 and she'll pick up the phone. She tries to do her voice deeper, and I'm like, what? Mom, what are you doing? Like, you don't need to do that. If I want to walk in a pink suit, guess what? I'm walking in a pink suit to this meeting with a bunch of CEO men. If you want to judge me, judge me. But at the end of the day, I know that I'm my genuine self, and they get to know me for me. And as soon as I start rifling off those business terms and those investment terms, it changes their perspective. I don't have to pretend to be somebody else or act like somebody else. You're going to get further in life by being your authentic self than trying to be someone that you're not.
Emma, you have been an incredible treasure trove of wisdom. I had such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait to catch you on the next season of Selling Sunset.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've had so much fun chatting with you.
That's all we have for today's episode. Drop a comment with your favorite part of Emma's episode, then go follow SoFi on Instagram and TikTok for even more richer lives. See you next time.
Hey, Mark.
I actually learned something while we were doing research on you when I was stalking you.
Oh, yes. We love a good stalk session.
Of course, please.
I always joke that I was like an 80-year-old stuck in a 16-year-old's body. So you guys have the inside scoop.
That is a word.